For 3 years, WWE fans have been urging WWE to push LA Knight. However, every time it looks like LA is going to get his big break, WWE pulls the rug right from underneath him. Why exactly does WWE do this? Does the head of WWE Creative, Triple H, have a personal dislike of LA Knight, or is WWE steadfast in their commitment to keeping LA at a certain role? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at why WWE have failed LA Knight. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos. An organic rise. When discussing LA's WWE run, it's important to address the fact that his main roster run started off on the wrong foot. Vince McMahon decided that he wanted LA Knight to be a manager rather than an in-ring talent. This made zero sense, as despite LA being one of the more older names on the roster, he had a highly successful in-ring run in NXT. McMahon's bold pitch was to ditch the LA Knight character in favor of Max Dupree. Dupree would be a manager of a modeling agency, and this new character didn't remotely align with the prior NXT work, and it led to more questions than answers. It was a complete waste of his talents, and yet it was another sign that McMahon had lost touch with how to handle new additions to the WWE main roster. Upon Triple H taking over WWE Creative, one of his first moves was ditching the Dupree persona, and LA Knight would return to our screens in an infamous backstage segment, which pretty much retconned the entire male modeling persona. The game's approach for LA Knight was that he would revert him to his NXT persona and would book him to enter into a feud with Bray Wyatt, who'd only recently returned to the promotion. There was a ton of pressure on LA Knight, as in the eyes of the main roster audience, LA was a new talent, but he did a tremendous job with the character and feud. Whilst the feud was without a doubt designed to reintroduce Wyatt to the audience, it ultimately helped LA Knight connect with the live crowds, and coming out of the feud with Wyatt, he had magically become one of the most over acts in the entire company. This positive crowd response didn't go away anytime soon, as throughout 2023, the fans firmly decided that LA Knight was a special talent. The reactions began to get louder and louder. By the time we entered the summer of 2023 and WWE hosted their annual Money in the Bank PLE in London, England, LA was a firm favourite to win the entire thing and potentially get a run as world champion. His time will come. Unfortunately, WWE had no plans to crown LA Knight as Mr. Money in the Bank. And there was definite disappointment from the live crowd when WWE decided to go with Damian Priest as the winner of the annual matchup. Fans would question this move, as Money in the Bank would be usually reserved for those talents who are on the brink of a main event run, and the common consensus from fans is that Priest wasn't quite ready yet. The head of WWE Creative would address why LA Knight didn't win during the post-show press conference, and the game stated that LA Knight was indeed a massive favourite to win, but great things will come to those who wait. I know LA Knight was a massive favourite coming in tonight, continuing that ascent. Great things come to those who wait, right? And I think that rise is just getting started. This quote came at a time in which the game still had a lot of equity with the fans, so naturally they believed him. Hey, we believed him. However, it became apparent that this big win wasn't going to come. At Crown Jewel in 2023, LA Knight would challenge Roman Reigns for the WWE title, yet it was obvious that LA was not going to win, so it made the match a foregone conclusion. It was even alleged that WWE were doing this so they could say that they gave LA his main event push and they could move on without him in the main event scene. Whilst he ultimately lost the match, his work in the build was tremendous and he managed to carry himself like a main event level attraction. Sadly for WWE, the crowd responses didn't stop. Knight was still one of the most over acts in the entire company, and if anything, the Roman Reigns feud showed the world that he was more than ready to be taken seriously in the upper echelon of WWE. They would give him one more main event push, as he would take part in a fatal 4-way match at the Royal Rumble in 2024, and despite wrestling with legends such as Reigns, Randy Orton and AJ Styles, the consensus coming out of the match was that Knight was a standout performer, and he once again showed that he belonged. WrestleMania 40 was another standout night for LA Knight, as his match with AJ Styles was received extremely well. AJ's WrestleMania history was a mixed bag to say the very least, so it was fantastic to see AJ finally receive another WrestleMania match that was well liked by the audience. Coming out of the AJ feud, there was some hope that WWE would commit to giving LA Knight a world title push, but it just never occurred. He once again lost his chance at Money in the Bank 2024, and it quickly dawned on the fans that Triple H just had zero interest in making him world champion. The game would book LA to defeat Logan Paul for the US title at SummerSlam 2024, and this was seen by many as a consolation prize and a potential sign that the game saw LA Knight at a certain level, and he wasn't willing to go beyond that. But does Triple H hate LA Knight? Naturally, there's been a ton of speculation that Triple H dislikes LA Knight. This comes from the fact that Triple H just won't give him a main event role on a consistent basis, despite LA remaining one of the most over acts in the entire company. Further evidence of this was provided on WWE Unreal, as footage was seen of Triple H lecturing LA Knight after Money in the Bank 2025, and LA's face told the whole story. It was like he was realizing that his boss doesn't have his back, and he even addressed this directly in the now infamous interview. Speaking of Bootleg Kev, he stated, "I personally don't think it's super productive, but I understand why they're doing it. I've definitely shifted the way I do some things because you had mentioned my appearance on Unreal there. I was majorly holding my tongue in that scenario. If you could tell when I looked, because I had my own frustrations about that situation. That partially had to do with the finish, but more so it had to do with the overarching theme that I don't need to get into the weeds about right here." And it's possible that these comments rubbed Triple H the wrong way. Despite the game saying that he doesn't read social media, we know that isn't true, and the game without a doubt has a burner and read these comments. But is the game the type to hold grudges? Well, it's hard to say. He's made amends with wrestlers who have said heinous things about him and his family, yet the dislike of LA Knight just seems more personal than any of his other beefs. Is it possible that the game doesn't like how outspoken LA Knight is, and that he feels that he can't trust him in the main event level position? We've seen names such as Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and even to an extent CM Punk master how to handle the media, yet LA always seems to go off on a tangent. One thing that could have held LA Knight back in his booking was his infamous reshare of an anti-Donald Trump post. The controversy began after Knight shared an anti-Trump post on social media which attracted attention because of WWE's long-standing connections with Donald Trump, including his past involvement with the company and his induction into the WWE Hall of Fame. There was some speculation that Knight's comments could damage his position in WWE or affect his chances of receiving a bigger push. Taking a strong political stance might create problems because of Trump's historical relationship with WWE figures. I mean, hell, they were all present at the UFC 250, so the connection is definitely there. Whilst WWE didn't take any action against Knight, there was some worry that backstage politics could influence Knight's opportunities. Even just a few weeks ago, before the 2026 King of the Ring commenced, LA Knight stated that he felt underappreciated in WWE, and he didn't have a lot of positive things to say when it came to his standing within the realm of the company. This is no doubt going to be fed back to WWE and Triple H, and they will without a doubt have concern that LA is going to be a loose cannon if he's given the keys to the kingdom. King of the Ring 2026. Now, heading into the 2026 King of the Ring, LA Knight was a firm favourite to win the matchup, and fans were actually convinced that they were going all in when Seth Rollins was eliminated from the tournament. Knight had been teasing a match with Roman Reigns on TV, so when LA win seemed like the most natural fit. However, in shocking fashion, LA wouldn't be just eliminated in his first match of the tournament, he would also be pinned in the Fatal 4-Way match. WWE's bold idea was to go with Jey Uso winning, and the crazy thing was that they had Solo Sikoa cost LA the match. This type of finish has been done countless times since Knight turned babyface in 2023, and they're just utterly obsessed with having Sikoa cost LA big matches. Is this a humiliation ritual for him? Why are they doing the exact storylines over and over and over again? When Knight entered into his feud with the Bloodline, he would feud with Sikoa on TV for months on end. Then he was trapped in the Vision Vortex, and now that LA is finally away from the stable, WWE's grand plan is to have him feud with Sikoa and the Bloodline again? It just doesn't make any sense. What is actually happening here? Is WWE hoping that fans just lose interest in Knight, stop supporting him, and then they can be justified in keeping him as a mid-card attraction? It certainly seems that way. So what's next for him? Now, it's clear that WWE is just never going to give Knight a world title win. If this was on the horizon, this would have surely happened by now. These types of issues shouldn't be encountered in the modern era, as this behavior is the type of creative practices that were present in the Vince McMahon era, as he was often unwilling to push names that go over by their own accord. It's evident that Triple H just doesn't see Knight at that level, yet some of the names that WWE continue to push are getting the same type of reactions as Knight, so it just doesn't make any sense from a business perspective. It could be argued that his in-ring work is at the same level, if not superior to names in the main event scene, and one example WWE fans often pinpoint on social media is Jey Uso. Jey is a name in which WWE consistently pushes despite the in-ring output often being very questionable, and WWE would even give Jey a run as world champion. Fans may have to settle for Knight being a mid-carder for life, which is a massive shame, as he isn't exactly at the start of his career, so this could be one of the biggest missed opportunities of the modern era, and WWE only have themselves to blame. What do you guys think? Has WWE failed LA Knight? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.